your mouth, better add your respect. Otherwise, pressure gon' be at your neck when I burn you like. This ain't a game, my aim is to throw. I'm much higher than you, like a rocket, a drone. I'm powerful, think of a stone, throw it off in my brain and I'm back to the bone.
Welcome back, everyone. Thanks for waiting during that short break. We return with another team match. It is Wednesday team match night here at the Kartrider Drift League. We just had MIRAENSEJONG achieve their first victory against Sungnam Rocks, and now it's going to be a bit of a David and Goliath story as we see NUTMITE going up against the KWANGDONGFREECS.
NUTMITE, one of our newer amateur teams here in the KDL season, and they are now taking a walk onto the stage, and I feel like they've had a very successful start to the season so far, already being 1-1 in their set score. And despite their opponent being KWANGDONGFREECS, the most decorated team in the whole KDL, I feel like they do have a pretty good shot.
Yeah, I mean, I'm curious to see, NUTMITE, I mean, there are some players here that should have, some experience. I know even, Wave himself was saying, I kind of hope people stop looking at me as a rookie and trying to prove that. I mean, if they can get a win against a team like KWANGDONGFREECS, that'd be one hell of a way to prove that they are here for the fight.
KWANGDONGFREECS is a team that has kept its roster the same ever since preseason 1, and they're the only team to be able to maintain that, and it's no surprise when, given that KWANGDONGFREECS with this roster, they were able to win both preseason 1 and 2, and now here in the regular season, they are 2-0 in their sets, by far the biggest team.
Yeah, I mean, sure, they have some couple tough matches here and there, especially actually against amateur teams. Maybe they're a little too lax. Who knows what the reasoning is? But at the end of the day, KWANGDONGFREECS have always come out on top, and that's what matters, right? Even if the journey's a little rocky, even if you're not able to always have a perfect scoreline, as long as you're winning, that's what matters. And we'll see if NUTMITE, maybe they can take an opportunity here to say, okay, well, we're happy to be one of those attacks, right, during that journey, if we can put a bit of a flaw in your record.
Yeah, and as you take a look at the speed average ranks, this is definitely a team that hasn't been winning through a lot of the 1-2 strategies, whereas KWANGDONGFREECS is a team that really focuses on that, so they have a tough road ahead, and you can see that being reflected by their statement. It's very scary to go against the Freaks. Please handle us with some politeness.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be scary for any amateur team. I mean, to see a roster like KWANGDONGFREECS shut down Live Sandbox repeatedly during the preseason, because Live Sandbox was definitely the more storied, victorious team during the older Kartrider League. And to see this squad of 4 just come out and sweep everything every time in both preseasons throughout 2023, and now continuing that run in the regular season so far, it's going to be a scary matchup. And, they're talking about the ace match addict, that's Sungbin. It's funny, actually, apparently during the interview it was told that it was, I believe, WorldCool and Sungbin who all wanted to enter the ace match in their last matchup against Desperado, and Sungbin just happened to raise his hand first, and that's why he was given that opportunity, and hey, he proved himself.
That's exactly what we know this roster for, being a 4-man lineup, all capable of speed, and actually KWANGDONGFREECS being very nice here, saying, you're doing so well, so you guys might want to teach us some little Kartrider drift.
At what point do we decide that this is no longer them being polite, but them just being sarcastic, right? They always seem to take a bit of this humble approach, which is nice to see. I do think they mean it. I think they're always trying to say, hey, like we're not confident just yet. We're not, there to say that we are absolutely the best just yet at the KDL. But of course, the results point in their favor as we take a look at the track list. KWANGDONGFREECS bringing us to another Construction Chaos start, and it's going to be another Handy Harbor follow-up as well.
Yeah, and it's also interesting to note that NUTMITE, they won the coin flip, but they chose item priority, which is why KWANGDONGFREECS was given this priority in speed. It feels like NUTMITE, they've kind of just let's speed up to whatever happens. You know, they're not really focusing on it, but their confident tracks were the newly introduced ones here in the official season of Kart Rider Drift. It's Handy Harbor as well as the Miami Drive.
Yeah, you know, I do like the bans coming out from NUTMITE, right? You're banning out some of these other difficult tracks, especially Terracotta Twister. That's a tried and true one for the Kwangdong Freaks. That does leave some of these other ones open, like Construction Chaos. We'll have to see if NUTMITE, they have the confidence to try to throw the Chaos back in Kwangdong Freaks' face as we enter speed mode. A team match between NUTMITE and Kwangdong Freaks takes off as the KDF lead in the blue stripes. All 4 members way at the front, and this is going to let just Spear and Cool both just do a bunch of the sweeping to take control of the midfield.
I love this strategy coming out from Kwangdong Freaks right now. World is so far ahead that it feels like there's no way Kwangdong Freaks is going to allow NUTMITE to ever have a 1-2. All Kwangdong Freaks needs to focus on right now is sweeping and making sure World's lead doesn't stop.
Yeah, and you know, I do love the fact that you no longer lose that boost gauge when you're colliding against the walls, because it's allowing so many more aggressive maneuvers from both teams, right? You now have to defend more aggressively as well around a lot of these corners and risk just kind of scraping that wall to make sure you block the lines. And so far, Kwangdong Freaks, they've been winning out on those trades quite continuously as Wave gets bumped out. Spear having to take the hit himself, because that means Sungmin and World way further ahead now in the 1-2.
That was a huge hit from Spear there, and Wave, despite being able to recover pretty nicely, just as you put it, Will, Kwangdong Freaks so far ahead with this 1-2 right now that Spear can go ahead and block a couple more times here.
Man, look at Spear, the way he positioned himself on the landing. Again, it's about these aggressive moves. He's happy to bump against the wall, which if that means he can block and stop the opponent, because now World and Sungmin, they're nowhere to be seen on the screen.
You can only see them on the minimap, barely. Wave finally getting to see the back of Sungbin slightly, but if you're looking at only the back slightly, that means you can't draft anytime soon. NUTMITE having such a tough start. I almost said horrible, but a tough one.
Yeah, I mean, you know, maybe both, because right now, even if they're able to break up the 1-2, it's looking a little dicey. Now they do have the 3-4-5, so if they can edge into that second place, that gives them a little bit more hope, but it's not going to be enough just yet. They will have to make sure that they overcome at least one more spot. You know, maybe something like the 1-3-5 would have worked for them, but it's not looking possible at all, Peter, as we see Sungmin and World still staying ahead. Not a single draft happening here in the second lap for the front runners, but it will be an easy, clean 1-2 for the Kwangdong Freaks.
Kwangdong Freaks asked NUTMITE before the match began to teach them a little about Kart Rider Drift, and I guess Kwangdong Freaks learned. They learned how to 1-2 from NUTMITE today, because it seemed like there was no way for that 1-2 to be broken.
Yeah, I mean, what a setup, and to me, Spear is the MVP of that track, right? I mean, sure, everyone played impeccably here on the Kwangdong Freaks, but Spear just playing this 1v3 at the end of that first lap, and he blocks out all 3 members a couple times in a row. Shut down all forms of hope here for NUTMITE to try to catch up. And so far, things are kicking off the way a lot of us expected to.
World looking really happy after that victory. He was able to set a new record, and that just shows what these pros of Kart Rider Drift can do when you leave them with zero pressure coming in from the back.
Yeah, I mean, World, he's known for that as well. Now we go over to NUTMITE's choice. Another follow-up on Village Handy Harbor. Can they tie things up 1-1 in speed mode in this team match?
We return again to Village Handy Harbor for Speed Round 2. We've already seen this between Seongnam Rocks and MIRAENSEJONG, and this was a track where a team always becomes dominant, and it seems so far that NUTMITE actually wants to be that dominant team.
Yeah, so far Scald, he's doing his best to hold on to the lead, but he tries to take a little bit too close of a turn. I think he wanted to go for a block at the same time and position himself for that shortcut. He's going to have to pay for that, but thankfully for NUTMITE, Vega and Will are both near the front. The draft's coming into play, so it's a 2v1 for Spear. Now, Spear's job is just going to be to buy time for Sungmin and World to try to catch up, because if not, Will and Vega, they can try to make a play where they go for the 1-2 near the end.
That is certainly the job for Spear right now. That's changed from sweeping to making sure that he's staying ahead, but NUTMITE falling behind into 6, 7, 8. That makes Will's job impossible.
Yeah, I mean, Vega, it seemed to have been a bit of a mistake there. He falls all the way back. He fell off on the minimap, and we saw that. And sure, Will, he's going to shoot forward, and he's doing what he can to keep the hope alive, but it's a solid 2-3-4 here from KWANGDONG And if you're Will, this is starting to feel like a horror game with these 3 blue racers coming up right behind you.
And we see Vega right now actually able to recover and provide some support, but KWANGDONG instantly answers back, trying to deny that 1-2 at all costs.
Yeah, but NUTMITE's ahead in points right now because Will, he actually had everyone group up right behind him. He was able to put the stops on them, but Will, he gives up first place. Is it still going to be enough points? It is the 2-3-4. Still holding on to the midfield. It wasn't over till the last second, and NUTMITE will answer right back with another track win here, tying things up 1-1.
That was so close near the end there. It was 1 point differential that gave NUTMITE the win. I thought when KWANGDONG took that first place away from NUTMITE, it might be KWANGDONG winning, but just as you said, Will, the 2-3-4 from NUTMITE, I love that they were able to recover in positions despite a huge setback.
And here's the thing, KWANGDONG, we were talking about this in the last cast over the weekend when they had their team match. I mean, their speed modes aren't looking as clean as you'd expect them to against some of these amateur teams. They're dropping a track here and there, so even if they're still able to win out, this is starting to show some of those weaknesses that the other pro teams might be able to take advantage of. But, you know, it's still just 1-1. We've said it time and time again. At the end of the day, KWANGDONG, they've always been able to eke out that W.
Hey, and you also have to keep in mind that NUTMITE, they did pick item priority, so they weren't even planning to really take up so many wins right from the get-go. So this is a pretty phenomenal start for NUTMITE right now. And round 3 and speed is ready. A KWANGDONG choice of track in Mine Winding Slopes.
And the race begins. Again, this is that track that KWANGDONG they've always selected, but they've had mixed results all throughout the preseason as well. In fact, this was the track they lost against Desperado in their previous match over the weekend. So NUTMITE trying to see if they can repeat that success because they won on this track when they played against Always.
That is certainly what they want to do, but KWANGDONG having such a nice control in that 1-2. A repeat of the strategy we've seen in round 1 is going to be a awful start here. Vega!
Oh man, I was just about to say, we've seen a lot of players try to play more aggressively on that jump, on that corner, right off of the jump. And Vega, he realizes he's not going to be able to play too aggressively because he's going to bump against his teammates. He tries to slow down. He's going to fall off the track, and meanwhile, Will and Wave. Oh man, it's going to be Wave who's going to fall all the way behind. Will's still able to recover, doesn't get collided too far back, but now it's a clean 1-2-3-4. And I can't see a world where Will is able to stop all 4 of these players from crossing the finish line because that's the only answer they got.
The only answer they got, but that answer is not even the answer in this case. As World, he just slows down to do some blocks, and you see the crazy spin turns coming out from NUTMITE, but that's nowhere near enough to close this humongous gap.
Yeah, I mean, listen, credit to Will tried to go for a stop there just to get some form of practice there. Of course, the 1-2 was already given up. But hey, credit to Will. Some good recovery on those spin turns, but again, he was all left alone after that catastrophic crash coming out from Wave, and NUTMITE, they will give up the 1-2-3-4, and as the post suggests from KWANGDONG, they say, nah, it's still going to be over for you guys here in the speed mode.
A trend I'm noticing is if KWANGDONG starts with that 1-2 for any time longer than the first 10 seconds, it feels like the matches are going to end in favor of KWANGDONG. So NUTMITE, they need to find a way to gather an early advantage.
Yeah, I mean, that good start is going to matter a lot. We'll have to wait and see if they can make something happen on their own picks. Let's note that, their picks are these tracks that, while Handy Harbor is not a wide track, obviously there's a lot of these opportunities because it's just continuous hairpins. So, now moving on to round 4, the selection from NUTMITE. As you mentioned before, Peter, we're going to World Tour Miami Drive, a bit of a field track here. If they can make sure they get the lead and then continue to keep that boost going forward, this is a chance where they can try to make sure to tie things up in speed mode against the king so far of KWANGDONG. Round 4, ladies and gentlemen, we go to World Tour Miami Drive.
Speed round 4 is going to be match point for Guangdong Freaks. NUTMITE, they need to win 2 more tracks here in speed to get that set win, but the task is going to be a rough one. NUTMITE does, however, have a pretty good position in the midfield.
Wow, so a lot of the players have been avoiding that second boost on the straightaway to make sure they can keep their force. This time, World actually takes it and it forces Skull to try to play aggressively, pushes him far behind into 7th place. So a bit of that aggressive play, but you called it, Peter. I mean, this time NUTMITE, they're trying to keep the lead. They're trying to stay ahead. They had a good start. 3 members up front. But again, I mean, so many opportunities for players of both teams to try to catch up. And we'll have to wait and see if Guangdong Freaks, if they're just biding their time for that second lap.
A beautiful line from Spear allowed him to catch up to the main force of NUTMITE so far. But once again, it's a 1-3-4 right now in the hands of NUTMITE. If Vega and Scald can stay ahead of Cool, that would be important, but keep in mind that Cool is also starting to recover.
Yeah, I mean, Scald seems to be kind of out of the race. Of course, we can't count anyone out too early, but hard to see him on the minimap as well. We'll have to wait and see. Meanwhile, Wave, he's probably thinking, okay, the opportunity right now is for that 1-2-0, and Spear, trying to make sure he doesn't lose entire control, is going to have to give up a massive lead. Vega, if he can just play some good sweeps here, he's trying against Spear, but Sungbin has now made it ahead. Spear now close behind him as well. Vega just has to apply pressure. He does not have to completely knock them out of the race because Will and Wave are so far ahead out of draft range.
He allowed Spear to pass by, but it doesn't matter. Vega just needs to focus now on blocking at least Cool because NUTMITE has such a humongous advantage in this 1-2. Will and Wave just needs the room.
Now it's just Will and Wave, though. It's now all up to their own speed and their maneuvers. No mistakes allowed as Spear is now caught up into almost draft range, but the boost, it's going to keep Will and Wave just far ahead, and it should be enough as we enter the last 300 meters. No mistakes made by the NUTMITE duo, and it's going to be a 1-2 finish. Ladies and gentlemen, we go to a round 5 in NUTMITE versus Guangdong Freaks speed mode.
A result that we couldn't have expected coming into today. NUTMITE is able to show us why this team was referred to as a NM win type of team. It basically meant if you have a game with NUTMITE, they're always going to go to that match 5, and to repeat that here against the defending champion in Guangdong Freaks, you have to give it to this team.
Yeah, I mean, really well played. And again, I just love the fact that, you know, they didn't come in giving up, right? They're still giving it their all. They still went for these track selections that they felt confident in, and that brings them all the way to round 5. If they're able to win speed mode, I mean, we might even see them have a good shot at shutting down Guangdong Freaks, you know, in the item mode and make sure an ace match does not happen.
An ace match is definitely a devastating place to be if you're an amateur team, because that's where amateur teams have traditionally struggled in, whereas item mode was where amateur teams shined, like you said, Will. So they just need now one more win if you're a NUTMITE fan to be able to have such a bright future ahead. But Village Boom Hill Tunnel is here for our round 5 in speed.
And the race begins. NUTMITE, can they overthrow the Guangdong Freaks in this team match during the regular season? Spear trying to get ahead, but NUTMITE, they've learned their lesson. They're not allowing Guangdong Freaks to have a monopoly on the lead from the get-go. A single lap here on Boom Hill Tunnel.
But the lines from Spear and Cool look absolutely unstoppable right now as they recover a 1-2 and a huge block. Almost sent NUTMITE packing, but they're able to recover very nicely.
Yeah, but I love the way that NUTMITE maneuvered this. Wave took that outside line coming out of the tunnel, and that allowed them to attack from 2 different angles, so it forced Cool to have to play very aggressively on that stop. And while he gets a little bit of an attack, too much momentum coming in from NUTMITE allows them to continue push forward. The boost still in store, and now Spear just trying to hold on to first place, making sure that Sungbin has a chance to keep the point lead, because if they finish the way they are right now, they should be able to be well ahead.
Guangdong Freaks having such a good control right now over the midfield. Will found an excellent block there, but it's not going to be enough just yet. Vega, he really needs to stay ahead of Sungbin.
Oh, Wave tries to overtake Sungbin on that jump. He's trying
Vega!
No! Meanwhile, Vega doesn't make the second jump. Sungbin with a nice block as well. And despite the aggressive maneuvers coming in from NUTMITE, it will not pay off, perhaps to their own demise, as Guangdong Freaks, they will regain control and win 3-2 in speed mode, bringing them a set score of 1-0.
That was certainly a rocky battle of speed, trading hands constantly in the advantage. It felt like whoever got their track choice pretty much won in that track. And for Guangdong Freaks, fortunately, they had 3 choices here in speed, and they're able to round it out in 3-2 format for this speed mode.
Man, I mean, that's rough because they, NUTMITE, they had a chance to recover off of the stop coming in from Cool as well, but eventually the pressure coming in from the remaining Guangdong Freaks players catching up got to him, right? None of the NUTMITE players going for that jump on the bridge as well, the rail jump, and they were just trying to overtake him. Actually, Wave made it, which allowed him to try to catch up to the midfield, but they let go of the lead too early, and eventually a couple more aggressive plays from Wave and Vega, neither of them paying off. Guangdong Freaks will be able to finish 3-2. Now, if you're a Guangdong Freaks or a Guangdong Freaks fan, I can't imagine that that's the scoreline you wanted, but again, the story of KDF is if you get the win at the end of the day, that's what matters. Get into the playoffs, get there in first place, eventually lift that very first trophy of the KDL.
And after that showing, of course, we're now moving on into the item mode. We're going to see the swaps coming in for Team NUTMITE, whereas Guangdong Freaks, just like MIRAENSEJONG earlier today, they won't be having any swaps. They don't have a dedicated item ace.
Yeah, see if that continues to work out for them. We take a look at the track list. We'll be kicking things off with World Tour London Night from NUTMITE, a track where you can still have these timing attacks towards the end of that third lap. Then we go to Mushroom Caves, Misty Falls, Magma Cavern, and if we go to round 5, we will be going on to World Tour San Francisco Seaplane Base.
And the bans coming out from both teams on the graveyard tracks is going to be an interesting one, because we've seen teams really not really shy away from that thematic of a track, but both teams not very comfortable in there.
Yeah, and just, cheering for the item ace on the side of NUTMITE here. Of course, his ID is Snoopy. We'll see. Now, I do want to say NUTMITE, I mean, even just a 3-2, losing 2-3 in set score, that might be what pushes them over the edge towards that postseason right before that wild card match, because we will go down into set and round differential. We'll have to wait and see until the end of the season, but for now, we go into item mode on World Tour London Night.
We begin our item round here on a 2-star difficulty track. A London Night is a classic that we've seen so many times in professional kart rider item play, and this track is all about building up items for that third lap.
Yeah, I mean, this is, again, more of that timing rather than the tempo play. Just the way that the track is set up, of course, at the end, you have a couple boosts that you can take for the big shortcut, jump over the Ferris wheel, things like that. So you still have a lot more opportunities, even if you let the lead get ahead. Now, with the, again, higher upgrades on the kart bodies, if you give too much of a lead, sure, any track will turn into a timing and tempo, or a tempo track, rather. Yep. But this is one of those where you're still susceptible to that timing attack.
In fact, we're seeing Wave and World being pretty dominant in their positions here, as we see Will catching up to shoot off a Water Wisp to offer more tempo for Wave. He's holding on to 2 shields right now, and you have to wonder, with all the magnets on the side of Guangdong Freaks, the comms must be pretty calm right now. They're not worried about anything.
Yeah, and the thing is you see a couple EMPs in store from NUTMITE. Okay, I was going to say, I wonder if they use one of them. They did. Will pick up a second when he uses it right away. So they're going to keep one in store for a potential magnet play near the end. They're very aware that that is one of the strong win conditions here on London Night. But curious to see if that's going to get drawn out. It does get cycled out immediately by Will, trying to go for a Guardian Angel. He'll get what he wanted.
You see a bunch of Water Wisps being traded pretty aggressively here as a missile's going to come out. It didn't do much. However, in the overall fields, if you take a look, there's so many magnets right now that an EMP wave has to be high up in the value.
Yeah, but Scald, meanwhile, just straight double boost. He's trying to go for a play where he can just cross the finish line on his own, right? Not have to rely on other people's placements, not have to worry about that. Just trying to make sure, oh, but he does bump against the corner. Not going to be opportune. He's going to have to use one right now just to catch up. The Guardian Angel coming in. Meanwhile, Wave way up front. He eats the UFO, slows him down too much, and Sungbin is going to cross the finish line. Oh man, I gotta imagine if Scald hadn't bumped against the corner, that was 2 members that could have tried to shoot far forward in the rankings. One of them takes the UFO. I imagine that's the strategy that NUTMITE had. But Guangdong Freaks, they will be able to cross the finish line peacefully and lead 1-0 in item mode.
Certainly a heartbreaking way to end off that round 1 for NUTMITE. Just as you put it, Will, Scald was really trying to put some emphasis on utilizing the double nitrous to make sure he has a tempo near the end where he's going faster than anyone else. But if you hit that wall and you start off the race in that 5th position, it's really hard to get back up in 1st.
Yeah, I mean, he had to use it immediately just to recover speed right around that corner. If not, he would have been able to find kind of a tempo where he can use one right off the jump, and then immediately as he lands, he's able to turn that corner with a nice drift. But alas, it is going to be KWANGDONG victory. Now, if you're a NUTMITE fan, this is how speed mode kicked off. We'll have to wait and see if they trade tracks here as we get ready for round 2 of item mode. This is going to be KWANGDONG choice of course, Mushroom Caves. Another 2-star track leading us here in item mode between these two teams. So no new items, but it is going to be very much a tempo play here on Mushroom Caves.
That is certainly how this track plays out, as we see World sitting up in top right now, but 2 players from each team really contesting, so we don't have a clear lead yet.
Yeah, just a 2-lapper. Sure, that means each lap is going to be a bit longer, but again, that's where that tempo play comes in. And you see it just now, a lot of narrow paths here on Mushroom Cave, so the water balloons can have some good impact in the middle of the track, but if you get to the end, there's only that one singular bridge waiting for you, so outside of that, you might miss some of those timings for a good AoE attack.
However, we're seeing Cool taking a pretty nice lead there. He was able to dodge out of that water bomb just slightly with a nicely timed shield, and you have to wonder, Cool, he's holding onto EMP. If he picks up a shield as well, it would have been troublesome, so this nice time Water Wisp is going to give more space for NUTMITE to catch up.
Yeah, I mean, just to catch up, just to make sure the tempo doesn't go entirely into a monopoly for KWANGDONG so I like that play. The water bomb not going to hit the front runners, but they will both spin out. Actually gives an opportunity for Wave to try to continue to contest. Snoopy now up front, but Sungbin, he's got a boost and a shield. He's sitting pretty healthy right now. A nice water bomb as well, and Skull, he tried to catch up with the Magnet, but it's around the curve. So, nice water bomb. Finally gives the opportunity. Continued success with water bombs from both teams.
And we're seeing a huge utilization of that item so far. We see Snoopy sitting up along with World. They both have an EMP apiece, but World does have a shield, so he's able to dodge that water bomb.
Yeah, but that means that the shield now being picked up by Snoopy is able to dodge the Wisp coming out from World. No further shields now. The Guardian Angel here for NUTMITE. Will shooting ahead as well. He's got another boost and another Guardian Angel. Unless you have a Magnet, it's not going to happen. And meanwhile, trying to navigate themselves around these trees, nothing comes to fruition for the KWANGDONG as Will be able to boost forward across the finish line, tying things 1-1.
Both Spear and World hit that tree there, and both were the players really trying to contest the spot for KWANGDONG. So after that, there was really no response from the Freaks to catch up, and near the end, it became a rather easy one-sided victory.
Yes, I mean, NUTMITE, they seem to really have that comfort towards the later half of the second lap. You could just tell the way they were racing, they looked at their own items and said, we're pretty much prepared for anything, unless it's like double, triple Magnet into a UFO. You know, we still had one more EMP in store as well. We saw Will use that, or his teammate use it for him so that the Magnet gets deactivated immediately at the last part of the track. They still had a boost, they still had another Guardian Angel. And so, you know, the items line up for them too, but also making sure they had 2-3 players towards the front to make sure if one of them takes the attacks, they're able to cross first. So now, tied 1-1. Can NUTMITE try to get the lead for the first time here in this team match as we go to Forest Misty Falls?
We have another 2-star difficulty item mode track to kick off our item round 3, and it is going to be our final 2-star item difficulty track between these two teams, as we see World and Sungbin having a pretty nice lead to start off.
Yeah, we'll see if they're able to keep that as Scald. He's not going to be able to get his landing over that shortcut here. NUTMITE, I mean, some of them were getting denied items as well, so they had to slow down to make sure they picked up items. So a lot of that tempo lost for the time being. Double shield still in store for Sungbin. Wave, you might have to use that lightning bolt, right, just to regain some tempo. Of course, it is a 3-lapper, so you have a bit more opportunity. But if things start to get really scary and there's no other support from your teammates, you might use it just to cycle through these items on the side of NUTMITE, or on the side of KWANGDONGFREECS.
Yeah, and you can see Wave, he's really holding on to that lightning for a while. He's trying to test the waters to make sure that he gets the best timing, and now finally he decides that KWANGDONGFREECS is way too far ahead and pops the lightning, but that doesn't offer enough. You can see in the minimap, World is so far ahead right now.
Yeah, the Guardian Angel was there, and another one was picked up by Pool, so they still have another answer to some of these attacks. EMP coming out from World as well, as he continues to keep the lead. He's not even in range for some of these water bombs, Peter, and we're nearing the end of lap 2 out of 3. No signs to stop the KWANGDONGFREECS as another Wisp and water bomb against Will. NUTMITE, they're just not able to get in range.
World seems to have everything in his favor right now, but fortunately that was the second lap for NUTMITE. So this is the last lap where NUTMITE has a chance to catch up. The lightning's going to get popped, and KWANGDONGFREECS, they don't have an Angel in response. This is that gap they needed.
Yeah, finally they're in range to land some attacks, and World without a shield. He's just trying to stay ahead. Will has caught up. He's in draft range as well. He's got another water bomb. So does Wave. We'll see if Wave can get into a position. No, another spin out from Will. World and Will both with items. A shield comes out. This might be enough just to edge World across the finish line. Scald has a magnet. Is it enough to catch up though? It only lands on Spear, not on World. Nothing to stop him. He actually breaks away from the water bomb.
Yeah, World is having such a phenomenal lead right now that Scald, without any items, cannot catch up. Snoopy throws the water bomb, but it doesn't hit even Spear. And World, with a 6 sidestep on that barricade, finishes the race off for KWANGDONGFREECS.
Man, World not letting that lead go over to NUTMITE a single time. I mean, I think he held on to it from the beginning of lap 2 pretty much, and he was able to hold it all the way through the end. And you know, we did see NUTMITE, they didn't get too greedy. They were starting to use items just to say, okay, we got to catch up. And that's how they had an opportunity there to try to overtake World, but they just did not have enough items. They had to choose either between keeping aggressive items or defensive items. And at the end of the day, if they attacked, they would get attacked in return from behind. And they were still just one step behind World.
And this is really scary for NUTMITE right now, because even the task of having to do an ace match against KWANGDONGFREECS would have been scary enough, but now KWANGDONGFREECS only one track of item away from finishing the set 2-0 today.
Yeah, NUTMITE, they held the highest average attack rate so far in attacking items in item mode, and they were second in defense so far, but in this match against KWANGDONGFREECS, they're trading blow for blow. Can NUTMITE recover as we go to round 4 on Mine Magma Cavern? The race begins. KWANGDONGFREECS looking to make this match point and secure this team match victory to keep a 3-0 record. Meanwhile, NUTMITE just trying to stay alive in this team match.
You can see the scanners now entering the field. World is going to cycle through that early on as we see some huge water bombs to shift the momentum away. However, KWANGDONGFREECS, they do seem to have a pretty sizable lead.
Yeah, so far looking good for the KWANGDONGFREECS. But as you mentioned before, Peter, this is now a 3-star track. We're only looking at 3-star tracks here for round 4 and 5. And that means with these narrow pathways, it's not just water bombs anymore, but those sirens that can come into play for both teams.
Stack Scald is going to pick one up right now. He uses it for the tempo, and he's now going to be healthily in second place, holding on to a lightning. If they know KWANGDONGFREECS don't have an angel right now, it could be a good moment to pop it.
Oh, but Spear just popped the scanner, and they're very well of that lightning bolt being held onto by Scald, so World is going to hold on to dear life with those double shields. I can't imagine he uses it for much else. He's constantly cycling shield for shield. A Guardian Angel as well to block off all the attacks. Scald, he's just not finding an opportunity. Finally, the lightning bolt, but it's going to get shielded off.
Yeah, I mean, World is so well protected until he got hit by 5 different attacks in a row, and finally he's going to get slowed down. However, Snoopy, he's not able to catch up just yet.
All right, but now the chain attacks continue. I mean, these staggered attacks, that's what it took to just get in range of World. So the tempo no longer in favor of World. Now Snoopy trading blow for blow, rocket for shield, but now it's just going to be an absolute pit fight between NUTMITE and KWANGDONGFREECS.
World has been such an MVP for KWANGDONGFREECS, and item mode constantly taking the lead, but this time he does fall behind.
Will not able to recover from that spin out. He was hoping if he just decreases speed, he could recover. Meanwhile, a Siren now coming out, but Pool just going to boost away from it. He doesn't get hit. In fact, we're going to see Will actually spin out and Scald. Now the only member, all 4 members of NUTMITE get caught in that water bomb as we see Spear getting way ahead of the entire race to finish off this team match in favor of KWANGDONGFREECS.
Sungbin's water bomb there was so huge. NUTMITE in the most crucial moment when they were focusing on nothing but catching up. Sungbin throws a bomb that catches 3 members of NUTMITE off guard, and that is what it took for KWANGDONGFREECS to win that round 4 in item, winning the day today 2-0 in sets.
You know, this is what I was hoping to see over the weekend. I mean, with these higher gears, this should favor KWANGDONGFREECS in a way where you can make a lot of these tempo plays, get ahead, play defensively, make sure the people behind are just throwing out attacks to make sure that, you know, the opponents can't catch up. A little bit of shout out to their sponsors here from KWANGDONGFREECS. That is one of the products coming out from Guangdong. So it's cool that they're now giving shout outs as we enter the regular season. I mean, this is what you want to see as a sponsor and an organization, but I gotta say, KWANGDONGFREECS, it seems they learned from their mistakes over the weekend, and they show a successful item mode showing against NUTMITE.
Especially after a defeat in item mode against Desperado, you might have thought that NUTMITE had a chance here, given they picked item priority as well, but KWANGDONGFREECS was just so dominating today in both speed and item, taking them 3-2 and 3-1.
Yeah, so because NUTMITE was so close, it may feel like, oh, that's a shame. But at the same time, you gotta imagine if you're NUTMITE, this is one of those opponents you just had to assume we're probably losing. But the question is, how much can we gain from that loss? And they gained 3 track wins, which means that they should now have a bit of an edge against some of these other amateur teams that are trying to get into the top 5 for that wildcard match in terms of round and set differentials.
Yeah, because NUTMITE really showed that as long as they don't fall behind too much in the early portion of the track, they're able to maintain 1-2 against a professional team like KWANGDONGFREECS. And if they can pull it off against the Freaks, they can pull it off against any other team in KDL. So I love seeing how NUTMITE improved so much in speed today. And item mode has usually just been where they feel comfortable despite having a bad outcome today.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how these set differentials and round differentials might play out in the future. I mean, you know, on the other side, KWANGDONGFREECS, we used to say, I mean, if they keep dropping a lot of these tracks, maybe that bites them and they once again are not able to get first place during the round robin stage. However, with Sungnam Rocks losing earlier today against MIRAENSEJONG, KWANGDONGFREECS continue to shoot far ahead with a 3-0 record in team matches so far.
And it's a wonder how KWANGDONGFREECS is constantly able to pull it off, because if KWANGDONGFREECS was winning all of their matches with a 2-0 in sets, maybe like 3-1 maximum for the round scores, then you would have been like, okay, KWANGDONGFREECS is the best team we got. But they keep having such a shaky journey, but it just works out always in the end.
Yeah, it was the same during the preseason, right? They weren't the team that had a perfect record during run of the round robins. It was actually Live Sandbox. But at the end of the day, who was winning that first place? It was the KWANGDONGFREECS, as everyone prepared for the regular season of the KDL. So they continue their reign. We'll see if they will, in fact, be the very first winners of the KDL. But of course, Peter, we're not done just yet. It is Wednesday, which means we have more team matches coming up.
Yeah, I mean, we've already had so many exciting matchups, and I'm really looking forward to this final one here. It's going to be a crucial match for FINALEe-sports going up against Desperado. FINALEe-sports, they're 0-2 in the standings right now. They need to pick up some set wins.
Yeah, I mean, this is going to be very important. Not just set wins, probably a match win for them, right? Just to be in contention to get into that top 5. So, ladies and gentlemen, another matchup this time between 2 amateur teams, Desperado and FINALEe-sports, who will come out victorious here tonight for the KDL. We find out right after this break.
afraid now. Put me on the stage now. I'm ready to rage now. I feel like an animal stuck in a cage and I'm ready to break out. My time, my time. None of you people can tell me to stop. This time, like the last time, you better get ready to race to the top. I'm ready to do this, show you what the truth is. I step on the field, it's time to get real. I'm feeling so ruthless. My time, my time. None of you people can tell me to stop. Lower the lights down. Hand over my crown. Hand over my heart. I do this for my town. I do this for my crowd. So turn me up real loud. My time, my time. None of you people can tell me to stop. Yeah. So what are you afraid of? Those feelings are made of. Get in the game, your moment of fame. Show them what you made of. It's time that we stand up. It's time that we man up. For anyone asking who is the best, we put in our hands.